Eager to enjoy the fun things in life? No matter where your road leads you, Charter Bank is here to make the journey a bit easier. With bank-free checking with online statements, we take care of the little things, like those pesky fees. You'll also have access to your account 24/7 with free online and mobile banking, plus over 55,000 surcharge-free ATMs worldwide. And a nice thank you gift, too, when you open your account. Take a moment and visit us online at charterbank.net or stop by one of our many convenient locations today. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Ever dreamed of being a radio DJ or hosting your own show? Now here's your chance. WQEE 99 Rock the Key is giving you an opportunity to host your own show. If you'd like to get your advertising message across the thousands of listeners throughout the area, here's your chance. Hosting your own show is the way to do it. Perfect for attorneys, realtors, churches, sports talk shows, and more. Contact 678-673-6318 for further information. Host your own show. Wildwood Trader at 15 Greenville Street in Newnan is your home for hand-built antique furniture, cabinets, and more. Fun decorating items. And of course at Wildwood Trader, direct from the factory items and furniture. So you get 20% below the factory and store prices. Call 770-683-4304. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sundays, 12 noon to 5 p.m. Wildwood Trader, your home decorating specialist in Newnan.
Hi, I'm Tony Chiguardo.
And I'm Mitch Axelrod.
And I'm Rob Leonard.
And we are the Fab Four Free-for-All, an all-talk Beatles radio show.
Heard every Sunday night at 9 p.m.
on WQEE 99.1 FM. The Key, the best variety of music and talk. We talk about the Beatles.
Tune in every Tuesday morning from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. for Faith Works with Pastor Jimmy Ellison. Pastor Ellison has the privilege of interviewing leaders in Newnan who are making a kingdom impact, modeling for our community that faith does indeed work. So don't miss an episode of Faith Works with Pastor Jimmy Ellison, Tuesday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., only on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key.
Hey, I'm Jimmy Ellison. I'm the pastor here at Newnan City Church. I want to thank you. You'll find as you walk through that we focus on three areas primarily. One is worship, small groups, and local missions. And our purpose is transforming lives for Jesus' sake, helping individuals experience that transformation. And we use these three areas, worship, small groups, and local missions, to help individuals experience that. So you'll get a sense of who Newnan City Church is, and I hope that you'll come and worship with us soon. Take care, and God bless.
The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast do not necessarily reflect the beliefs of this radio station, its management, or its sponsors. Listeners are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusions.
It's now time for Faith Works with Pastor Jimmy Ellison from Newnan City Church.
Good morning, Newnan. This is Jimmy Ellison, and you're listening to Faith Works, where each week we interview individuals in our community who are demonstrating that faith does indeed work. And this morning I'm thrilled to have my good friend Pastor Joel Dover from the Calvary Chapel Newnan Church here in downtown. Joel, it's so good to have you on board today.
Hey, good morning, Jimmy. Good to be with you, and great to be here on the show.
Well, it was first time I met you. I guess you came by the church, what, about 2 or 3 months ago?
I guess it's been about that long back.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back when it was. But I remember meeting you for the first time and thinking, man, this is somebody that I want to be his friend. And just glad that it worked out for you to come on board today to hear, so we can hear a little more of your story and what God is doing through your life and through Calvary Chapel here in Newnan, and just looking forward to hear more about that. So tell us, first of all, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, well, Jimmy, I grew up out of state. I'm originally from North Carolina.
Okay, what part?
I grew up in a small town about 45 minutes north of Charlotte, a little town called Faith. Mm-hmm. It was a typical caution-like town, rural town. Mm-hmm. Soda shop, fire department, 3 churches. That was about it, 500 people. And grew up there and just had a wonderful upbringing there. A lot of family still in that area. God brought us to Georgia back in 2006, kind of a roundabout way. So we from North Carolina, but man, we got roots here in Georgia. We love Noonan.
Yeah, that's great. And you're married. You shared earlier with me off air that you guys have 3 children.
Yeah, we do. Kim and I have been married for 20 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You don't hear that a lot these days, unfortunately.
Well, she's stuck with me this long, so she's she knows the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
And, it is what it is. But yeah, she's wonderful. We have a great marriage, 3 kids. Girl, boy, girl. Mm-hmm. So they're all elementary school age. My oldest is about to go to middle school next year.
Are you ready? Your girl?
Yeah, my oldest daughter.
Are you ready for that?
I don't know that anybody can be ready for that.
That's different. Oh man!
You just brace for impact and hope for the best.
Oh,
but no,
wow.
I'll say this about my kids: they're all 3 great kids. They are. They're church kids.
Yeah.
And we've tried to pour into them good values, and they love the Lord, and they've got a pretty solid foundation. Really proud of great kids.
That's great. It is, as a parent and the church as well, it's a specialized to be the child of a pastor. To grow up in that environment, it's specialized. Very few, PKs have a special bond with each other, and it's I've seen it, I'm sure you have too. Either the children fall in love with the church, fall in love with that lifestyle and that world. You and I both know PKs that have gone the other direction as well, and so I'm thrilled to hear that the Lord has given you 3, and you and your bride are raising them in a way that they love the church.
Absolutely. We read the scripture, and there's that proverb, train up a child in the way he will go. When he's old, he'll not depart from it. It's so important to remember that the proverbs are not promises. They're like generalities. Generally speaking, if you do this, this is the outcome.
Right.
We also read about the prodigal son.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think all parents hopefully try to point their kids in the direction they think is right, and to raise godly adults. Mm-hmm. And we just a lot of prayer, just hoping that they'll make good choices.
Sure. Absolutely. So you where'd you go to college?
I did my undergrad work at UNC Wilmington.
Really?
Down in Wilmington, North Carolina. Yeah, we used to call it UNC by the sea.
By the sea. I love UNC Wilmington.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we run a homeless mission in Atlanta.
Okay.
I don't know if I've shared that with you or not. It's called Restoration Atlanta, or Rattle. And UNC Wilmington is one of the schools that come every March. They come during their spring break. Matter of fact, they were just with us.
Yeah.
And they always send a great group of students who come to serve with us for a week at the homeless shelter, serving the women and children there. But yes, I'd never heard of UNC Wilmington until they started coming. But what a great school it is.
It really is. It's a state school, part of the North Carolina University system. But Wilmington is one of those places that you don't really drive through Wilmington going anywhere.
Right.
It's kind of an endpoint destination.
Yes.
So it's tucked way down there in southeast North Carolina, and really just probably a good hour from anything else. Mm-hmm. So, but it's a terrific school. We had a great experience there.
Well, it's an hour from any other major city, but it's right on the beach. And that's right. The people that I know who live there, they love it because it's right on the beach.
Well, the first house Kim and I bought when we were first married was 7 minutes from the beach. And we love Noonan. This is home. But I will tell you that I miss fresh seafood. This is going to blow your mind in our list. I don't know what our listeners are going to think about this, but in that beach culture, guys would go out on john boats and they'd catch their own shrimp, and they'd put it in a cooler and then sell it on the side of the road off the back of a pickup truck. And you could buy, a pound of shrimp for $3, and it was fresh caught. Just wonderful. We kind of miss that beach culture.
You don't get that on Bullsboro.
No. We're thankful for what we have. It's just it's some differences. But Kim and I met in a physics class. We both went to college there. And
what did you major in?
I was a double major. I majored in theater arts, of all things. Yep, and then communication studies. So
why are you taking a physics class, man?
Well, it's like any college program, any bachelor's program. You have your course of study, but then the school requires you to take certain, English, math, science. to be well-rounded
Again,
in
why
the
did you
degree.
take physics? I mean, you could have taken biology 101, couldn't you?
Well, I think it probably goes back to high school. In high school I had, chemistry and biology and physics like, I guess like all the kids do. I had a physics teacher in high school that I really connected with. I really enjoyed the class. I felt like I learned more in that class about practical application and how science really impacts life, everyday life. And so it really, of all the sciences, physics just kind of jumped out as my favorite. So when I had the choice in college, that's the one I chose. And just so happens there was a beautiful young girl.
Amen.
Who sat 2 rows in front of me, and I took note of her day one and made it my mission to move 1 row up the next week, and then to her row, and then next to her. And
women have that ability to get that out of us. It's amazing how that happens.
Well, the Lord's favor.
Lord's favor. Here you go. There you go. So, tell me about your call to ministry. When did you know the Lord was leading you to serve full time?
Yeah, so I studied theater in college and communications. I did a lot of radio work back in school and some film work and those kind of things. But when I graduated, that just wasn't really the opportunities didn't come. It wasn't the direction that the Lord had. I'd been out of school, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so when the Lord called me. And prior to that, Jimmy, I've been away from the Lord for many years.
Really?
Yeah, I was raised in the church. I knew the gospel. I'd met the Lord, but I was what some of our listeners might call a backslidden Christian. And I've been playing lead guitar in Southern rock and country bands for the previous, 3 or 4 years, and every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night in bars all around the region. And I remember very distinctly on New Year's Eve in 1998. I've been married less than 6 months. I was in a bar called the Brass Pelican in Topsail Beach, North Carolina. And that night, a fight broke out. And you know how the story goes. Everybody gets knocked around, and beer gets spilled in all the music equipment. And, man, that was just the last straw for me. So I told the band that night, we packed up. I said, guys, I just can't keep doing this. I quit the band after that show. And the first of the year, I knew where to go. I was so miserable away from the Lord. The Bible says there's pleasure in sin for a season. And I was involved in everything that goes with that life. So it just got old, and it was so unsatisfying. So I grabbed my Bible, began to read, began to move into a season of prayer and revival. And literally every day, for hours every day, I would focus in prayer, Bible reading, even fasting. I just really got serious about seeking the Lord. And after about 6 months of that, I got my call to ministry. And I felt that the Lord just spoke so clearly that you've heard people say it was like God spoke audibly in the room.
Yes.
The call was so clear. And within about 60 days, we had packed our house and loaded a moving truck, and
so I
went to seminary.
I want to hear tell me your wife's name again.
Kimberly.
Kimberly. I want to hear the conversation. But you go into Kimberly, you've told her, okay, I'm quitting the band. I'm sure that she probably thought, thank you, Lord. She probably. I'm sure. So tell me, when you told her you were being called, that you had heard the Lord say, go into full-time ministry. What is she thinking?
Well, this was one of the great confirmations, Jimmy. I think that looking back on it, it's 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, I think that Kimberly was able to see what the Lord was doing in my life.
Yeah.
And there was a radical change from, 1998, New Year's Eve, until we get around to the summer, 99. And she watched that change of what the Lord was doing in my life. We started going to church again. She grew up in the church. She was a believer. Really, if anything, I corrupted her and kind of pulled her away from that, which, is regrettable. But when I sat down with her, I remember the day, she came home from work for lunch, and I sat down with her in the living room, and I said, honey, I need to talk to you. And I said, I have been with the Lord this morning, and I believe that God has spoken so clearly that we're supposed to relocate. I'm to go to Lynchburg, Virginia. I'm going to start a band up there, Christian band, and, maybe look at seminary. And her response was beautiful. She just looked at me and she said, okay, let's do it.
Wow.
So what a woman of faith that the Lord has given me. And it's been that way all these years. Every time that the Lord's led us from one town to the next, or if I've had a change in my ministry calling and gone from one church to the next, every time Kimberly has been supportive. I mean, I have to brag on her here. I just could not ask for a better mate or for a better partner in ministry. I'm a blessed man.
That is so wonderful. What a great story. Because as you and I both know, not all wives, spouses respond that way.
That's right.
When the other says, hey, I feel the Lord calling.
That's right.
This. So I'm assuming you went to Liberty then?
I did. And what's interesting about that is that, of course, Liberty is Jerry Falwell's school. I'd been away from the Lord. I didn't know who Jerry Falwell was.
You had been away from the Lord if you didn't know who Jerry Falwell was.
That's right. And, of course, during the days...
So why did you choose Lynchburg? Why did you choose Liberty?
You know, it's interesting how the Lord sometimes puts a carrot in front of you and says, here, take a bite of this.
Yeah.
You know, I was a musician. I've been playing in bands all those years. And I really felt that the Lord would have me to start a traveling Christian band.
Okay.
And that we'd play, write and play original Christian worship music and go from place to place and preach the gospel. Well, I had a cousin that lived in Lynchburg, Virginia, because his dad was enrolled at the Bible College at Liberty.
Got it.
So I called my cousin. This is a beautiful story of how the Lord worked. I called my cousin and I said, hey, this is going to blow your mind. He knew the kind of life I'd been living. I said, but I've been talking with the Lord about this and praying a lot about it, and I feel that the Lord would have me to call you and just see if you're interested in starting a band. Well, his mind was blown. He said, Joel, you're not going to believe this. He said, about 2 weeks ago, God put it on my heart to call you and see if you wanted to start a band.
Wow.
But I knew that you were playing in those bars. And he didn't know that I was having a personal revival in my own life. So we hung up the phone that day. Really and truly, Jimmy, I expected him to relocate to my city. I wanted him to come to Wilmington. But the Lord had different plans and made it exceedingly clear that we were supposed to go
to him.
Lynchburg. Yeah.
Okay.
So may I tell you about that?
Absolutely.
So just in checking it out, exploring some things, our anniversary came around, August 1st weekend. So Kimberly and I thought, well, let's just go up to Virginia. We can at least look at Lynchburg and just, see if maybe the Lord wants us there. So I remember we stayed one night in a bed and breakfast, and then the next day we drove down to Lynchburg. We stayed at my cousin's house, but they were all out of town. It's an empty house. So while we're there, believe it or not, the phone rings. Okay, remember it's 1999. Remember the Y2K scare that was coming?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so the phone rings, and there was a company, 15 minutes away that heard that Kimberly had, that we were thinking about coming to that area, that Kimberly had a computer degree from college, and they wanted to interview Kimberly. So Saturday, we went down to the mall. We got her interview clothes. She drove down to the interview. We left Lynchburg that weekend. Kimberly had a job making like 10 grand more a year than what she was making back home, okay? So we go back to Wilmington. It's Sunday night. We sit down at the computer. We type up her notice of resignation for her job in Wilmington. She folds it up, puts it in an envelope, sticks it in her purse. Monday, she goes to work with the intent of giving her notice. We've made the commitment. We're going to relocate to Virginia. So at 4:30 that afternoon, they call Kimberly in. She's got her notice of resignation in her purse. And the boss says, hey, the company's decided to make some cutbacks. You were the last one hired. We're going to lay you off. Don't worry, we're giving you 4 months of severance pay. So just a beautiful story. She had a resignation in her purse anyway and another job already. So just one of those stories about how the Lord was orchestrating things, and it was exceedingly clear that we were to go.
Clearly.
So that's how I ended up at Liberty.
Wow. So you did your MDiv there, I guess?
Yeah, I did a Master of Arts in Religion first.
Okay.
With a worship leader concentration. Playing in this Christian band, and I wanted to study that. And Liberty had a wonderful program because if you went through the MAR, like 30 of those credit hours would transfer right into the MDiv. So
you could get that under your belt, and then if you decided to move on to MDiv, you could do it. Yeah.
That's right. So my first semester at Liberty, I was required to take a preaching lab. It was one of those 1 hour courses, Yeah. You put regular time in it, but you get 1 credit hour on your record for it. I'd never really preached before, hadn't had any preaching training or anything, and I went into the class and discovered in that class that God had given me the spiritual gift of teaching and preaching. And so I finished that class, and interestingly enough, at the conclusion of that course, my very first year in seminary, the students voted that I would represent the seminary in a student convocation and be the preacher of the year. So what an honor. That was such an honor. So I got to preach in the Vine Center, and of course that was televised on the Liberty Network and all that, all over the world. And so the Lord brought me to Lynchburg to start a band. That's what I thought the Lord was doing. Little did I know that God was going to put me in a place where he would affirm this call to teach and preach his word. So for the last 20 years, I've been a pastor in some capacity, most of those years as a senior pastor.
Wow. Tell me, how did you get connected with the Calvary Church? I know Calvary is it's not a denomination, but there's affiliation, there's an association.
Yeah, that's right.
How did you move in? Have you always been in the Calvary Church, that association, or?
No, as you might suspect, because I went to Liberty Baptist Seminary. I had a Baptist upbringing, so I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church. I was born again in the Southern Baptist Church, discipled in the Southern Baptist Church. I love Southern Baptists. I really do. They have such a heart for evangelism, a heart for discipleship, church planting. I mean, I really owe a lot to the Southern Baptist Church, and there's so many brothers that are part of that denomination that are still to this day just dear friends. And so when I went to seminary, I went to Baptist Seminary, and then graduated and started the Baptist Church. And I was a Baptist pastor for 15 years.
Okay.
A lot of times I think we kind of move into our ministry placement because of our heritage. And so 15 years I served in the denomination. But I was finding, as I matured and grew, I was finding that there were areas that where I had beliefs that weren't necessarily a perfect fit for the denomination. So over time, that led to conflict over things like how the church should be run, conflict on views like church government and congregationalism versus elder leadership, that kind of thing. So just polity kind of issues. And in 2014, the Lord led us away from denominationalism. I've been pastoring a Baptist church. The Lord moved us away from that, away from the denomination. And I knew that God was bringing us to a bigger change. So we just sensed the Lord's leadership to begin searching.
Were you in Georgia at that time?
I was. Sir? I was actually in Noonan at that time. I served a local church here.
Okay.
And it was a wonderful church and a wonderful group of people. But we just had conflict over time, in large part because of, looking back, I think, in large part just because of these differences in how we viewed things. Really just kind of an emerging mismatch over time. So when we left the denomination and left that church, we began kind of looking for a new direction. Calvary Chapel had been around my ministry for a lot of years. I knew several Calvary pastors and had talked with them through the years and loved them. They've been so supportive and encouraging. When I pastored in Athens, Georgia, I was there 4 years pastoring, we had a Calvary radio station.
Okay.
And so, I'm driving around town listening to Calvary Chapel teachers. And the thing about Calvary teachers is that, Calvary Chapel really has an emphasis on verse-by-verse expositional teaching through books of the Bible. So over time, as you listen to that kind of teaching, you might work through the book of John, and you have the whole book, verse by verse, precept by precept, passage upon passage, in its context. And I began to just feed on that kind of teaching.
Yeah, because I know that's your style now. And I've listened to your stuff. I love your taking that verse by verse and just kind of walking us through. And it's like a Bible study on steroids. That's what it feels like when I'm listening to it.
That's right.
Yeah, it's good.
So it was the teaching that brought me to Calvary Chapel. And then when I began to meet some of the Calvary pastors, and I'd go to these conferences, I saw something that I'd never seen before. I saw a group of men that were humble and a group of men that were hungry just to know the Lord. Nobody was politicking for a position. Nobody was trying to climb some kind of ladder. Nobody was moving up in the ranks. It was just a group of men on their face before the Lord. Humility.
Yeah.
And then the philosophy of ministry. See, our movement came out of the hippie movement out in California.
Right. With
So,
Jack Hayford, right?
Chuck Smith.
Chuck Smith. I'm
Chuck
sorry.
Smith. Yeah, Chuck Smith. Chuck's story is very similar to mine. He'd been a denominational pastor for 19 years. He was kind of disheartened by some of the things, just wasn't a fit anymore. So he took a small church, 25 people, this little church called Calvary Chapel. He began to teach verse by verse, passage by passage, with an open heart towards reaching the hippies out there. And the next thing you know, young people start showing up. You know, the long hair and the flowers and bare feet and the dirty blue jeans and the whole thing. And back in the 60s, you know, the late 60s, that was unusual that a church would welcome that group of people in. And so our listeners may not know this, but Calvary Chapel, because it brought in those young people and allowed them to express their faith, Calvary Chapel was the birthplace of the modern praise and worship movement. So you had these bands back in that day like the Love Song, and then Odin Fong and Mustard Seed Faith, and these guys that started to come out of Calvary Chapel, and they're writing these Christian lyrics, you know, and these Christian songs, and it's praise and worship stuff.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so you know, today we take for granted. So many churches have this praise and worship approach, this free flow praise, but all of that came out of the ministry of Chuck Smith there at Calvary Chapel.
That's good.
Over the years, God brought in these hippies. There was radical life change, and they start going out to be pastors. Guys like, you know, Greg Laurie, you know, goes out, and then guys like Raul Reese goes out, and then, you know, you've got all these other guys that come out of here. We could just go name after name after name of these pastors that are going around the country now, just teaching simply verse by verse by verse. Nobody's trying to whip anything up. Nobody's trying to program anything. It's just this dependence on the Holy Spirit and this commitment to simply teach the Word of God simply. And now across the world, there are Bible colleges and about 1,700 Calvary chapels that are all independent, but joined together in this affiliation of being a part of the association. We share theology, we share statement of faith, we share philosophy of ministry. It's kind of like you know, a fast food restaurant. You go to this one, that one, this one, that one. It's going to taste just about the same, no matter which Calvary you go to. It's been a joy to my life. And then we found that you know, the things that were points of rub when I was serving in the denomination, man, we found out that we were just a better fit here.
Yeah.
And, you know, we love the whole family, guys. It's not right, wrong, us, you. It's not that.
Absolutely.
No, we love the whole family.
Absolutely.
But I think a pastor in particular, and this is your story too, a pastor needs to learn how to hitch his horse to the right wagon.
Yes.
And fit is so important.
Yes.
So
no doubt. No doubt. I mean, it allows you to use the gifts as you feel God has gifted you and wired you to serve. And,
That's right.
And it all ties together. And boy,
Sure.
if you're not in that right fit as a pastor, it's feels more like a cage.
It does. You know, I think it's important to recognize that God wires leaders in different ways. I have dear friends that are just a wonderful fit for the leadership structure in their particular denomination.
Yeah, sure.
Whether it's a bishop-led kind of thing, or there's a hierarchy, or congregationalism, or plurality of elders. I think a pastor just needs to figure out who he is, how the Lord's wired him to lead, and then find a place where he can fit and be truly who he is in the ministry.
Yeah.
So coming to Calvary was that for us. We love
great.
it. We absolutely love where
that's
God's placed us.
We're coming up on a hard break, and let's see. Let me check my clock here. We've got. Well, I tell you what. We're coming up on a hard break. When we come back, what I want to do, I want to hear quickly how you got to Noonan Calvary, when you started Noonan Calvary Church, and then I want to hear from that point. Then I want to move into how the Lord has been speaking to both of us individually, and now we've come together. And I want to share a little with our audience about what I think the Lord is up to.
Great.
Friends, you're listening to Faith Works. We'll be right back.
You've been around long enough to know good stuff when you hear it. That's why you're here now. Classic Hits, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key.
At Newlink WOW, local matters. Local keeps our families and businesses thriving. WOW takes pride in serving the Newnan and Peachtree City communities and supporting Coweta County charities and events. For the fastest local internet, call 770-683-1931 and get up to 100 megs of speed for $29.99 a month. Lock in this price, save for the whole year. It's a great value that locals love. Be Young with Be Young Beauty Studio and Spa, 5 Jackson Street in Newnan. Be Young not only can get you the best new hairstyles around, but Be Young provides services for weddings, skincare, makeup, lashes, and more. Visit them at the web at BeYoungBeautyStudio.com or 770-683-0704. Be Young with Be Young Beauty Studio and Spa today. The Parlor Downtown Boutique is all about health and beauty. Now offering CBD, elderberry, specializing in all natural organic products. Carrying a number of local vendors such as Dang Chicks, Country Junction Goat Soap, Lily Jane Jewelry, and more. The Parlor also gives back by offering gift cards with the perfect gift, Bridgewater Candles. Call 678-571-7076. Visit 5 LaGrange Street, Suite 1 and 2. The Parlor Downtown Boutique. It's all about health and beauty.
Join us here, live from Newnan, Georgia, as we present the Health, Happiness, and Harmony Hour, every Wednesday from 10 to 11. I'm your host, Dr. Lewis Boynton. Please join us each week as we have new guests and talk about topics related to the psychological world. We're hoping that you will find interesting and helpful topics that will help you have more health, happiness, and harmony in your life. Join us every Wednesday from 10 to 11 at 99.1 WQEE Rock and Roll Radio.
Tune in the second and fourth Thursday each month for Know Your Rights. I'm your host, Charles Cobble, and we will discuss your rights and have plenty of information on what those rights are every second and fourth Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on WQEE 99.1 FM.
WQEE 99 Rock the Key has opportunities for your church to be heard every Sunday. Become a part of our Sunday Sunrise, our evening services. Interested in information? Contact us at 678-673-6318. WQEE 99 Rock the Key, Noonan's home for classic rock and more. Ever dreamed of being a radio DJ or hosting your own show? Now here's your chance. WQEE 99 Rock the Key is giving you an opportunity to host your own show. If you'd like to get your advertising message across the thousands of listeners throughout the area, here's your chance. Hosting your own show is the way to do it. Perfect for attorneys, realtors, churches, sports talk shows, and more. Contact 678-673-6318 for further information. Host your own show.
Hey, I'm Jimmy Ellis, and I'm the pastor here at Newnan City Church. I want to thank you. You'll find as you walk through that we focus on 3 areas primarily. One is worship, small groups, and local missions. And our purpose is transforming lives for Jesus' sake, helping individuals experience that transformation. And we use these 3 areas, worship, small groups, and local missions, to help individuals experience that. So you'll get a sense of who Newnan City Church is, and I hope that you'll come and worship with us soon. Take care, and God bless.
Around long enough to remember getting up to turn the channels on the TV? That's classic. Classic hits. WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key.
Good morning, Newnan. You're listening to Faith Works. This is Jimmy Ellison, and we have Joel Dover, Pastor Joel, who is pastor at Calvary Chapel here in Newnan, on the show today. Joel, it's been so good to hear your story. I want to hear you're starting Calvary Chapel. When did you know, okay, the Lord wants me Kimberly and I to start this church here in Newnan. When did that happen, time-wise? How long ago was that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share, Jimmy. I mentioned that I was a denominational pastor for 15 years. 2014, really for 3 years here in Newnan, I pastored a local denominational church. And sweet people, really sweet people. Some of the just lovely people. We have really great memories of them. But over time, it just became apparent that, we weren't a fit. And my thinking and my way of doing things was not a fit for their thinking and their way of doing things. And so in 2014, we had a parting of ways. And that happened early in February. So really, I think a lot of times people don't realize in a pastor's life how much the church is more than just a job. And so in 14, when we stepped away from that work, it was a devastating kind of thing for us.
Yeah, sure.
It was heartbreaking because it was not a good departure. And it was heartbreaking to have your children ask you, hey, why can't we go play at so-and-so's house anymore? To see a Sunday school teacher out in the public, and they used to touch your children in the face and say, oh, we love you so much, and then they don't speak to you and turn around in the store and go the other way. Those kind of brutal things. My wife's friends, who said, hey, it's been nice knowing you, best of luck, that kind of thing. And we found ourselves in early 2014. I'd lost my job, I'd lost my income, my children had lost their friends, my wife had lost her friends largely, I'd lost all of mine, and we found ourselves in a place feeling very alone. And so, that's a sad place to be, but we've discovered that it's also a very good place to be, because it's in those kind of moments where you realize that everything else in life can change.
Yeah.
But the one thing that is unchangeable is the presence of the Lord Jesus in our lives. And so it really drove us into a place of seeking the Lord. Well, in all of that, there were a few families that, because the church had changed and the leadership had changed, there were a few families, like always happens, that had decided they wanted to change as well. And for a period of weeks, Kimberly and I and our family, we visited around place to place, and one of the places we visited was Calvary Chapel over in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Pastor Sandy Adams leads that fellowship, sweet friend, sweet man of God. And one of these families was kind of floating around, I don't know, probably 8 weeks after. They called us and said, hey, we've been visiting churches, but we're not really finding anything that really calls out to us. Would you just pray about coming to our home, maybe on a Wednesday night, and just do a Bible study with us and maybe one other thing? And so I prayed about it, felt the Lord's leadership to do that. And so we showed up at the house. We were going to start in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and just go, might as well start at the beginning.
I love it.
New Bible study, might as well start in the beginning. So we sat down, began to work through the Bible, and the door kept opening, and more people kept coming, and the next thing you know, we've got like 25 people sitting around in a living room and dining room. The second week of the study, we hired 2 girls out of the college over here in Carrollton to come down and watch the kids on the Florida room. And we moved the dining room table out and still had people sitting on the floor. And so we just started teaching and praying together. There was nothing very excited about it. I remember in the early days of God bringing us into this movement, I asked Kimberly all the time, do you think that people will actually show up just to hear me open the Bible and just teach it? I mean, no shouting, no yelling, no clapping, no snapping, no stomping, no theatrics. And see, what God taught me in this season of my life was that God didn't need my theatrics. The Word of God is enough. And so as we just opened the Bible and began to teach, simply teaching the Word, people began to come. So I guess we started that Bible study and really didn't go looking for it. We were asked to do it, kind of came to us. And then I was invited to the Deep South Pastors Conference in Stone Mountain, a Calvary Conference, which was in late April of that year. And I was at that conference.
So this is 2 months after you'd left the denomination.
Yeah,
okay.
almost 3 months after I'd left the denomination, and just kind of completely broken, and hurt.
You're teaching every Wednesday night.
But just because of the experience that we'd had, with the church, frankly, just broken, almost broken beyond repair, just as low could get. And looking back, that was good. I needed that.
Yeah.
Looking back, God used that in a powerful way.
Yeah.
At the time, it was miserable. So I go to this conference, okay, and the worship begins, and the Spirit of God begins moving, and the teaching was so powerful. And I left that conference knowing in my heart, just having that call from the Lord, that the Lord wanted us to start a Calvary Chapel Church here in Newnan. Well, I came home from the conference, told my wife about it. Again, we were so hurt at the time from some of the things that we'd been through, the betrayals and all of that, that she wanted no part of it. So I told her about it, and she's a godly woman, but she's human. And she said, "No, I don't think I want to be ministry wife anymore." Okay, so I just began to pray, and just leave it up to the Lord. I've always felt that if God calls a man to serve, he's got to call his wife too.
Yeah.
And so a few weeks goes by. At that point, I had obtained a real estate license. I'm out, knocking on doors every week, trying to make a living selling houses. Okay. So I come home from selling houses one day, and there's Kimberly on the front porch, sitting on the porch swing, and she's weeping. And she has an open Bible on her lap. And I walked up the sidewalk, and I said, "Honey, are you okay?" And she looked at me, and she said, "We're supposed to start a church." So I sat down in the chair next to her. She was reading in the Old Testament the passage about how David had been run out of Jerusalem. Saul was hot on his tail, and he was exiled, and he went out down to this cave. And David camps out in this cave, and then people start gathering themselves to him. And she read it to me. And the scripture says, those who were downtrodden, and those who were rejected, and those who had no place to go, and those who were indebted, the scripture says they gathered themselves to David, and they made him their leader. And when she read that, she looked up at me and she said, "You are that man." And truly that's what was happening. This little Bible study that we had, it was a group of people that no longer fit anywhere else. And so now I've got this calling from this conference to start a Calvary Church. I've got this small group of people that's gathering to pray and just study the scripture. I've got my wife who now has yielded over to this thing that the Lord has done in her heart to confirm this work. And so I went back to the Bible study that next week, and I said, "Look, I know we didn't get this together to start a church. And some of you may not be interested in this, but we're feeling God's leadership to start a church. And it's not going to be the kind of church that we've been in before. God's doing a work in our lives." So I began to share with them, what is a Calvary Chapel Church? And then asked them to pray about being a part of it. And the more that we prayed, the more in the group decided to be a part of that. A couple of weeks later, as it would happen, I'm driving down the road. There's a small little chapel next to the neighborhood where I live, and I noticed that the sign for that church had been removed. It looked vacant. So, I was in real estate. I had all these super realtor tools.
Right.
I go and I find the owner. I contact the owner. Sure enough, it's available. So we leased this building in August of 2014. We take our little group of 25 or 30 people in there and do some painting and renovating. And then in September, we hold our first public service. And God began to grow it. He honors the teaching of his word. And so
that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. So here we are. September 14, we officially launched the church. 25, 30 people. And listen, no billboards, no radio campaigns, no newspaper ads, no mass mailers. Just a small group of people on their face before the Lord, believing in God, trusting in God, that God will build the church His way. And so as we began to pray and study together, more people started coming. I don't know how they heard about us, but they started coming. The next thing you know, it's 2016. The parking lot is full. There are no parking spaces. People are parking on the grass. The Sunday school rooms are full for the kids. We went to 2 services, okay? Both of those services continue to grow. So now
This is in the fall of 16?
Right, this is 16. So we're 2 years, maybe 2 years and some change in, and we began to pray. And, God, would you raise up a new place where we can go and be together? We prayed for a year and a half that God would give us a new facility. And then last year, no, I'm telling you wrong, Jimmy, I guess the end end of 2017, a friend of mine that was a neighbor and attends another local church, he contacted me and said, hey, I know you guys are looking for space. There's a possibility that our church is going to relocate. Would you be interested in our building? And so God did the work. God brought it to us. We didn't do anything.
Sure.
God has done everything from day one.
So
And he gets all the glory for it. It's his work. And, we began talking with that church, and then we moved down here to Savannah Street where they were meeting this past summer. So it's just been
Y'all
wonderful.
still keep the 2 services?
No. Looking back, maybe we should have, because we are seeing, growth in this new location.
Yeah.
And
So what's y'all's attendance now at this new place?
Jimmy, I'm going to be honest with you. One of the trouble spots of being in ministry before, and all these years, was that I was involved in a ministry culture that put a great emphasis on how many people were in attendance and what the offering was.
Yeah.
The old joke was, you count the nickels and the noses. And so when we started this church, one of the things that the Lord put on my heart was that I was not to count people. We don't do church membership. We don't make you join the church. It's our opinion. I know there are different opinions on this.
Sure.
But it's our opinion that membership is for country clubs and local gyms, and that you became a member of the Church of Jesus Christ when you repented of your sins and put your faith and trust in Jesus. So we don't do church membership. You just come and you be a part of the fellowship. You assimilate. We don't count people every week. We don't have the signboard that says, last week's attendance and this time last year. We don't do that.
So you don't have any records on anybody that comes to your church?
We don't have any attendance records.
So
No.
how do you, I'm just, from a practical standpoint,
Yeah.
someone, of course you receive an offering and you send statements. By
We
law,
do.
we have to do that,
We
of
do,
course.
yes.
So you got addresses on folks.
Primarily
Right.
from the checks.
Yeah,
if they
from the
give
checks.
by check, or if they give online at our website.
Do you collect emails from people?
When people come and visit the church, we do have a simple Connect card, because we're in the people business.
Right.
We don't do membership, but we do feel a responsibility to make disciples.
Okay.
So we do collect information.
Okay.
But I will tell you that there's no database at our church. We do not have a database of names, addresses, phone numbers, those kind of things. That does make communicating a challenge.
Sure. I'm
sometimes.
sitting here thinking from a practical standpoint.
Right.
And our time is running. We got to get to what we're going to talk about. But I'd love to talk more about that.
I would too.
Yeah, because I'm, as a church planner myself, we're trying to figure out the whole church membership thing. What does that look like?
Right.
And I haven't got it figured out. We're still working on it.
I don't know that we have it figured out either, Jimmy. And I'll tell you that when we read the New Testament, there's flexibility. there are different valid interpretations on how the church should be structured, governed.
Yeah,
and
I certainly am not in hey, there's only one way to do that. Yeah, I'm not in that camp at all.
Right.
Well, listen, we've got about 5 to 6 minutes left.
Okay.
Joel, we've got to talk about what the Lord has placed on your heart and my heart. I had heard from the Lord, it's been probably 2 weeks ago now, 2 or 3 weeks ago, that just this idea of pastors coming together for prayer and specifically praying for a revival.
Right.
I'd heard that.
Right.
I was in a meeting with you last week, or maybe the week before, I can't recall, but we were sitting in there and you articulated the same thing. And I almost fell out of my chair when I heard that. As you know, I leaned over to you and said, hey, I want to talk to you about that.
Right.
So tell me about what you had been hearing from hearing from the Lord about prayer and pastors coming together.
Yeah, back in 2017, I began to feel a real burden to get pastors together and pray. Now, some of the denominational groups do that weekly, but as a non-denominational guy in town,
the Southern Baptists have something. Who else?
Anybody? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that. I don't know. I don't know if they're all doing that. To be honest with you, I know that the Baptists have a connection.
I know they do. The local association, I think, has a weekly meeting that's led by their leader, and I think some of the independent Baptist guys get together,
Okay.
you know, and I know there are some groups that meet in restaurants once a week and pray and that kind of thing. But as a non-denominational guy, you know, I don't get invited to a lot of those prayer meetings. And I've always felt that, you know, I'm thankful for my tribe. I'm thankful for the part of the family of God that I serve with. But the family of God's a lot bigger than the local Calvary Chapel Church.
Amen.
And
Amen.
we need to be together, united and rallied around the cross, praying for revival in our community. One of the beliefs that I have, Jimmy, is that here in the Deep South, we have so much cultural religion. You know, my granddaddy started the church, my daddy was an elder or a deacon, or my daddy was a pastor, those kind of things. We've got so much cultural Jesus, you know, cultural religion, that I think that's it for a lot of people. There's not a lot of depth sometimes in a true relationship with Jesus. I think we need to get pastors together and pray for a fresh outpouring of the Holy Spirit in this community.
Come on.
For a fresh wind in our sails, for fresh fire.
It makes me think of Simbella's his books when they came at the tabernacle.
That's right.
Is just praying for the Holy Spirit to show up.
That's right. I see this as I see our community. It's a great community. This is a great community. Wonderful people. But we need a spiritual awakening. And, you know, I see this as being a day kind of like the days of Ezra and Nehemiah. You know, we need to dust off the book. We need to get back to preaching the Bible. You know, every week we gather together before church and we pray at Calvary. We pray for all the churches. And some of the pastors that we know, we call them by name. And it's interesting, we have felt led in recent days to actually pray that pastors would preach the Bible. We live in a day and age where there's a lot of preaching and it's not all biblical. You know, we're praying that pastors will preach the Bible.
Ryan, just for the record, your pastor preaches the Bible, right?
That's right.
Amen. And that's why we're here. We have a kindred spirit on that. But I really believe
that's hard to believe that you hear. I mean, people, and I know that happens, but what would you say without starting with the Bible?
What else is there to preach? I don't know. But you know, I think a lot of people use the Bible as kind of a source text for an idea. And some of the preaching I grew up with is indicative of that, where you might read a Bible text and pick one key word out of that and then preach a thematic, topical message on that key word without ever referencing the Scripture.
And
there's a lot of that happening.
That certainly happens a lot. And
it does.
I mean, there are pastors who have made a career out of writing sermons and using, 28 different verses pitched at the right place.
That's
which I don't see how. I don't know. That doesn't. It's not how I'm taught. Not how I feel led. I'm with you on bringing the pastors together, and we talked about perhaps. Finding a monthly day, a day of the month that these pastors can come together. Now, if people are listening, they've stayed with us through the end of the show. If wherever you're worshiping, please have your pastor reach out to us or contact me, contact Joel, so that we can reach out to your pastor. But we want to bring pastors together, and we talked this morning. I mean, this is April. Maybe we can get this thing rolling as soon as May. You think?
I sure hope so.
Yeah,
I really hope so. There's such a great need, and when pastors come together and pray, is powerful.
Yes.
And Jimmy, I'm not talking about the kind of meeting where pastors come together and preach and one up. No, I'm talking about a meeting where we get together with humility. And where we fall on our face before the Lord and petition the Lord for revival. It's time for us to quit playing church and to get serious in this community about seeking Jesus.
Amen. Amen. Well, again, if you are a pastor or if you are in a church here in Newnan, we would love to talk to you or your pastor about this group. I'll be promoting it on Facebook and our other outlets, but be looking for it in May, putting something together, and a day of the week. We've not settled on a day yet, but it's going to be monthly, and it will be a specific day of the week once a month that we come together as pastors, just praying for that again, that fresh wind, fresh wind. I think is a beautiful way of describing what we're trying to get there.
Yeah.
And
Some of
so-
these pastors, it's not an easy gig. Some of these guys need us to just lay hands on them.
Yeah,
and pray
absolutely.
for revival in the pastor's hearts.
Absolutely.
I need that. I need revival
I need
in my
that.
heart.
Yep.
So, if we start with the pastors have such an influence in the community, in their congregations. We trust that they will take that back to their churches and that fire will spread.
Yeah.
So
That's good word. Good word. Well, Joel, what a gift it's been this past hour having you on the show, man.
The joy has been mine. Thank you, Jimmy, for having me today.
And we'll come back. We need to come back and maybe do a show on just how the Lord is leading me on how to plant and how to put together this body of believers so that they're growing, and how we are reaching new people and making disciples and then growing those disciples there. So maybe when we come back another time for another show.
I would love that. Thank you again for having me today.
You bet. Well, friends, it's been a great show. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you, sharing with you next week on Faith Works. Take care and God bless.
Thanks for tuning in to Faith Works with Pastor Jimmy Ellison from Noonan City Church. Tune back in here next week for another edition of Faith Works.